Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to a brief review that I promised, or should that be threatened, last weekend. When I made my AliExpress top 10 recommendation roundup video, I said that one of the watches on that list, a Sea-Gull TV watch, was actually on the way to me on loan from a subscriber, Jason, over in WA, and I would come up with a brief review if it arrived in time. It arrived in time. Big shout out to Jason, thank you very much, mate. He has loaned me a bunch of stuff for review in the past, and he always has an eye for the interesting and the unusual. So then, is this Sea-Gull interesting or just unusual? Let's flip the camera and find out. Alright, let's get into it. Decent packaging. It's the same packaging actually that you get with all of these Sea-Gulls regardless of the price. Talking of price, I'm not going to reveal the price quite yet. If you watch the AliExpress top 10, you'll know how much these cost. See if you can guess. Play along at home. See if you can guess how much they want for this one. I'll talk about price at length a bit later on. Now, reference here. I don't think they've put the right sleeve on this one. I think the reference number for this is 826921051A, not that it matters either way. If you're keen on one of these, I'll leave a couple of links in the description, of course, or you can just Google Sea-Gull TV watch. This will be the first thing that pops up in the search. Like I said, decent packaging, and inside there is the Sea-Gull TV watch. And there it is. Clearly Sea-Gull leaning heavily into the whole TV theme with this one. TV style case because the dial layout, the case shape, very reminiscent of an old CRT TV. And a TV test card on the dial as well. They do two of these. Colour one for those of you who have a certain degree of nostalgia, and a black and white one for those who have the same degree of nostalgia but a few more years under your belt. Now, I hate pigeonholing watches by using the N-word, novelty, but this one, it's definitely got a bit of a novelty thing happening. I don't think too many people will look at this and go, hey, this is my next daily. This is the watch that I want to hand down to my son and my grandson. But if you like the look and you have a degree of nostalgia about you, then yeah, there's an argument for picking one of these up if the specs and value equation match up. So do they? Let's do dimensions first then, and this one very much in the retro vibe today, so smaller than average. In fact, it has been small watch week this week at JOMASHOP Mansions. I cannot remember the last time I reviewed 3 sub-40s in a row, but there you go. This one is 36mm in diameter with a thickness of 11, lug to lug of 44, but do note that mid-link is fixed, effectively taking the lug-to-lug out closer to somewhere near 37. Lug width, though, is definitely not applicable today. You are buying this one on the bracelet and keeping this one on the bracelet. Weight as supplied, I could maybe remove one link, but I won't. I will leave that fun for Jason. Weight as supplied, all links included, bang on 100 grams. 50 meters of water resistance from a push-pull crown, flat sapphire crystal, and the movement in the back is a Sea-Gull, of course, because Sea-Gull make 300 million movements each year. It's a Sea-Gull ST2100. And there it is, looking rather attractive, I must say, through a mineral display case back today. If you're not familiar with the 2100 series by Sea-Gull, it is their top spec movement. It is a clone of the ETA 2824. Now, by clone, I don't mean fake. After a certain number of years, I believe it was 25 years, the ETA 2824 architecture became effectively open source. Anyone could make their own version. Sea-Gull, STP, Sellita, and various other companies have used the ETA plan and made their own version. However, these generally cost around $100, whereas a Sellita will cost you about $160 wholesale and an ETA around $200 wholesale. Factor that, keep that in mind when we discuss the price of the watch a bit later on. 28 joule hacking and hand winding, bidirectional winding from the rotor, roughly 40-hour power reserve, and of course being based on the ETA 2824, it's a 4 Hz movement, so 28,800 vibrations per hour, 8 ticks of the second hand per second. Case finish is very simple, again retro style, High polished sides with a seam running down the middle, linear brush to the upper lug surfaces, the ones you look at when the watch is on your wrist, high polished bezel with a nicely integrated piece of flat sapphire, small crown, kind of 4.5mm crown. You wouldn't really want anything bigger on a watch this size anyway, with the Sea-Gull S protruding from it. Retro style watch definitely gets a retro style bracelet, nothing thick and chunky here. Look at how slim this bracelet is. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I saw links this thin, and that includes on the really low-end Casios. But they are solid links, and there's a reasonable finish to the upper surfaces as well. Brushed center links and tapering outer polished edges to them. Nice taper as well, again kind of vintage style. Now the clasp on this one is also definitely in inverted commas vintage style. We have a pressed upper and pressed scissor as well. Lots and lots of micro adjust holes though, so super small links, heaps of micro adjust holes, kind of unnecessarily numerous micro adjust holes there, but there you go. But nobody's buying this one for the clasp. If you're buying it at all, you're buying this one for that TV test card dial. The fun, colourful, tongue-in-cheek, playful dial. Applied, simple, high-polished silver baton indices, double at 12, singles everywhere else, and a high-polished silver frame around the day-date complication at the 3 o'clock. Now, Chinese characters and English characters for the day of the week, and Arabic numerals for the date of the month. Handset are very simple, high-polished, beveled stick hands. There is some loom on the hour and minute hand, I'll show you that in a second, but no loom on the very slender needle high-polished second hand. And that's it. The rest of the dial is really about that test pattern and the colours. It's marked with a couple of lines of Chinese text, I'm not quite sure what they say because I don't speak Chinese, and 28 yuan, which I do know means 28 jewels. Now all of those colours are printed on. There's a little bit of a grainy texture under my super macro lens, as you can see here. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as a deliberately textured dial. It's just a byproduct of the printing process, I'm sure. And despite all of those colour blocks, I still wouldn't describe it as particularly garish. I think there's enough black, white and grey here to offset the colour. Definitely unusual, definitely a conversation starter, probably not something you would want to wear as a daily though. Especially not when the loom was this poor. There is a sliver of loom on the hour hand and the minute hand. Nothing on the second hand, nothing on the hour markers, nothing on the dial itself. When I turn the speed up, it pretty much vanishes straight away. That's it on wrist. It is light, it is comfortable, and it has quite a lot of presence for a 36mm watch thanks to that colourful dial. There's also plenty of high polished surfaces here with the bezel, the outer edges of the bracelet, and the outer edges of the clasp too. This style of watch, a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. I tend to wear a little bit looser around the knuckle, kind of suits me. Heavier watches I wear higher and tighter, but this one I would wear lower and looser. But what time is it? Can you see the hands? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Overhead shot just confirming all of that. Nice proportions, but very poor legibility. Moans and niggles, well, as discussed, the legibility isn't all that fantastic. No minute markers on the dial either, so you will have difficulty setting this one accurately unless you're setting it bang on the 5 minute. Really, you're obliged to, but then again, with an automatic movement, how accurate is it going to be after 24 hours really anyway? And retro style watch, yeah, it's a little bit light on in the bracelet category and also the clasp category. Baltic kind of managed this. They put a vintage style upper on a milled scissor. Sea-Gull haven't bothered. Very comfortable on wrist, but yeah, it is light and flimsy. That's okay if the price matches it, but does the price match it? Well, not really. $392 during the sale. These are normally $460 odd on AliExpress. I think that might be taking things a little bit too far, considering this is probably going to be a corner of the watch box, occasional wear, Saturday night novelty style piece. I reckon in the mid twos, those specs would have made sense. But in the high threes, it's a bit of a stretch, to be honest. Now, you don't just have to buy these on AliExpress, you can buy them from Sea-Gull directly, although they want $449 at the moment. Jason said he got his on sale, he paid about $365, so if you're keen, do some digging around, try and get it closer to that $350 price point, or buy one used. While we're on prices, let's have a look at the prices of some other Sea-Gulls on AliExpress, because I just don't understand what they're doing as a brand. They offer watches like this, $75, simple Bauhaus sapphire crystal in-house movement. They've sold quite a few of these. No wonder I think it's a great price on a decent daily wear watch. Or this one, the Jade Buy Disc. I really like the style of this. Again, sapphire crystal in-house movement, $120. Again, they've sold a few of them. But then their prices look a little bit misguided. Sea-Gull Ocean Star is their classic dive watch, but at $420, as nice as it looks, it does face some seriously stiff competition, both from micro brands and from the Japanese brands. And there's even less reason to pay $630 for the same watch, with a frankly ugly moon phase complication. As you can see, only 12 people actually thought this one was value, which is still twice the number of people that saw value in their latest Sea-Gull 1963 special edition reissue. I do not know what they're doing with the price of these. When I started talking about this watch 5 years ago, they were $400. Now they've nearly doubled. No wonder nobody's buying them. And this is a rather attractive skin diver, albeit for $480. There's just so much competition out there from micro brands around that price, and you're still getting that same Sea-Gull ST2100 movement in all of these. You're probably getting a better Swiss Auto in a micro for around this price as well. And if it was pricey at $480, it's even more expensive at $640, albeit this Antarctic Expedition Special Edition, Commemorative Edition, whatever. Only 2 people have actually bought this one. So come on, Sea-Gull, sort your pricing out. You're making these things yourselves, you're making the movements yourselves, you're making everything in China. Why are you trying to charge $400+ for one of these? Do you actually want to sell any units? It's a fun watch, but there are a lot of other fun watches out there that will cost you far, far less money than this one will. So there you have it, definitely firmly in the novelty category. This one is for those nostalgic for the good old days of television channels you can count on one hand, and God save the Queen when they ran out of programmes to broadcast on any given day. Sea-Gulls, I think, can either be a bit too cheap or a bit too expensive. This one, despite its obvious charms, falls into the latter camp. Well done for making it all the way to the end of the video. I think this Sea-Gull is a bit too cheap. I think this Sea-Gull is a bit too expensive. I'll see you all again in the next one.